Take out my husband's organs so that they can be of use to us. This is a very good opportunity for us to become millionaires.
My husband is worth nothing to me alive. But his organs? That's a different story. This fool thinks I married him for love. I married him for his O-negative blood and perfect kidneys. He's too stupid to realize he's just inventory to me. I've been selling his blood for 6 months. He thinks he's tired from work. Idiot doesn't know I'm draining him twice a month while he sleeps like a dead pig. Victor, tonight we take the kidney. $5 million. After that, we'll keep him alive just long enough to harvest the rest. Why waste premium organs on a man this pathetic? Those words were whispered in a basement at 2:47 a.m. A woman stood over her sleeping husband's body, surgical tools laid out on a metal tray. Her lover waited with ice containers and transport bags. She had no idea that a small device in the corner was recording everything. No idea that her entire plan was being uploaded to cloud servers. No idea that in exactly 6 minutes her smart home would make a phone call that would end her freedom forever. What happened next turned a perfect crime into a nightmare she never saw coming. Before we dive into this terrifying story of betrayal and survival, I need your help. Our dream is to reach 500 subscribers, and without your support, it's not possible. If you enjoy stories where karma catches up with the people who deserve it, please hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. It takes just 2 seconds but means everything to us. Now, let me tell you exactly how this nightmare unfolded. Dr. James Park was a 38-year-old transplant surgeon at Memorial General Hospital. He wasn't famous, he wasn't flashy, but he was damn good at his job. Over 12 years, he had performed hundreds of successful transplant surgeries. His patients trusted him with their lives. His colleagues respected his skill and dedication. What most people didn't know was that James had quietly accumulated significant wealth, his medical patents, and smart investments had grown into a fortune worth nearly $8 million. But you would never guess it by looking at him. He drove a Honda Civic, wore simple clothes, lived in a modest suburban home. James had seen too many relationships destroyed by money. He had watched colleagues go through ugly divorces where spouses suddenly appeared after smelling wealth. So he kept his finances private, very private. He was also something rare in the medical world, a universal donor, O-negative blood type with perfect health markers. In the legitimate transplant world, this made him a valuable potential donor. In the underground organ trade, it made him worth millions. James met Crystal at a hospital fundraiser 3 years ago. She was 26 then, working as a pharmaceutical sales representative. Beautiful, charming. She laughed at his awkward jokes. She seemed genuinely interested in his work, not his wallet. They dated for a year before getting married. James thought he had finally found his person, someone real, someone who loved him for who he was. He had no idea that Crystal had researched him extensively before their first conversation. She knew about his blood type from medical records she had accessed illegally. She knew about his patents from public filings, and she knew that his combination of wealth, health, and rare blood type made him the perfect target. Crystal had lost her nursing license 2 years before meeting James. The official reason was medication theft. The real story was darker. She had been caught stealing controlled substances, but the investigation had also uncovered suspicious patient deaths on her shifts. Nothing was ever proven, but her career in legitimate medicine was over. That's when she discovered the dark web organ trade. The first year of marriage seemed normal. Crystal played the loving wife perfectly. She cooked dinners, asked about his surgeries, made him feel appreciated after long shifts. James had no reason to suspect anything. But Crystal was patient, calculating. She spent that first year studying his routines, learning when he slept deepest, understanding which medications would sedate him without leaving obvious traces. The blood harvesting started around month 14. Crystal would add a mild sedative to James's evening tea. Once he was deeply asleep, she would draw blood. Not too much, just enough that he would feel tired the next day, but not alarmed. She stored it in a portable medical cooler and shipped it through dark web contacts. O-negative blood from a healthy donor fetched premium prices. Each pint brought between $800 and $2,000 depending on the buyer. Over 6 months, Crystal had sold roughly 15 pints of James's blood. He had complained about fatigue to his doctor, who attributed it to stress and long work hours. Nobody suspected the truth. Have you ever trusted someone completely only to discover they were hiding something terrible? Have you ever looked back at warning signs you missed because you wanted to believe the best in someone? Tell me in the comments how you would handle discovering something like this about your own spouse. Viktor Kozlov entered the picture around the 8-month mark of Crystal's blood operation. He was a Russian national with connections throughout Eastern Europe's underground medical networks. He had spent 15 years building an organ trafficking operation that spanned multiple countries. His buyers included wealthy patients who couldn't wait for legitimate transplant lists. His suppliers were people like Crystal. They met through encrypted dark web forums where Crystal had been building her reputation as organ queen. Viktor was impressed by her access to a premium donor. Their business relationship quickly became personal. Crystal began visiting Viktor during James's longer hospital shifts. They would meet at hotels or at a property Viktor maintained outside the city. Their conversations mixed romance with business planning, and their plans for James grew more ambitious. Blood was profitable, but kidneys were worth serious money. Viktor explained the market to Crystal during one of their meetings. A healthy kidney from an O-negative donor with perfect health markers could fetch between $3 and $5 million on the underground market. Buyers were usually wealthy patients from countries where transplant lists stretched for years. They paid premium prices for premium organs. Crystal did the math. James had 2 kidneys. One could be harvested with proper technique, leaving him alive but permanently damaged. Medical records could be falsified to show he had donated voluntarily. Or they could stage a mugging where he was mysteriously injured. The plan took shape over several months. Viktor would provide surgical expertise. He wasn't a licensed surgeon, but he had performed extractions before. Crystal would handle sedation and post-operative cover-up. They would harvest 1 kidney, sell it for $5 million, and split the profits. If everything went smoothly, they would keep James alive for future harvesting. His liver segments could regenerate. More blood could be taken. Crystal could play the concerned wife nursing her mysteriously ill husband while secretly selling him piece by piece. The basement preparation took 3 weeks. Crystal told James she wanted to convert part of the basement into a home gym. He agreed without much thought. He was busy with work and trusted his wife to handle home improvements. What she actually built was a makeshift surgical suite. Viktor helped her install proper lighting. They brought in a sturdy table that could serve as an operating surface. Medical supplies were ordered through dark web vendors. Sedatives, surgical tools, sutures, antibiotics, and organ preservation materials. Everything arrived in unmarked packages over several weeks. By the time they were ready, the basement contained everything needed for a kidney extraction. Crystal documented her plans obsessively. She created encrypted files with pricing information. She researched sedation protocols. She practiced surgical techniques on training models Viktor provided. And she made one critical mistake. She believed the house had only the Alexa devices she knew about, the ones in the living room, bedroom, and kitchen. What she didn't know was that James had installed a secondary smart home system 6 months earlier. James was a bit of a technology enthusiast. He had upgraded the home's security with additional monitoring capabilities. This included backup voice-activated devices with continuous recording features. One of these devices was hidden in the basement, tucked behind storage boxes where Crystal never noticed it. The system was designed to detect unusual sounds and potential emergencies. James had programmed it after reading about smart home devices that could call for help during medical emergencies. As a surgeon who worked long hours, he worried about having a heart attack alone at home. He never imagined it would protect him from his own wife. The night Crystal chose for the extraction was a Thursday. James had worked a 12-hour shift and was exhausted. Crystal prepared his favorite dinner. She was attentive, loving, everything a caring wife should be. She made sure he had a generous glass of wine with dinner, then tea before bed. Both were laced with sedatives. By 11 p.m., James was deeply unconscious. Crystal texted Victor, "He's ready, come through the back." Victor arrived at midnight with additional supplies. They carried James's unconscious body down to the basement, positioned him on the table, connected a basic 4-line to keep him hydrated during the procedure. Crystal felt no guilt. To her, James had always been a means to an end. His kindness was weakness, his trust was stupidity, his love was a tool she had exploited perfectly. "His kidney will set us up for life," she told Victor as they prepped the surgical area. "After this, we disappear for a while, let him recover, then we come back for more." Victor nodded. "The buyer is ready. Transport arrives in 4 hours. We need to work quickly." Crystal picked up the scalpel. "Let's begin. What would you do if you discovered your spouse saw you as nothing but spare parts? How would you even process that level of betrayal? Let me know in the comments what you think happened next." At 2:51 a.m., Crystal made the first incision. The cut was along James's lower left side, following the technique Victor had taught her. Blood welled up immediately. Victor dabbed it away while Crystal worked to expose deeper tissue. But something unexpected happened. Even heavily sedated, James's body recognized trauma. His heart rate increased. His blood pressure spiked. His breathing became irregular. The stress response was triggering despite the drugs in his system. "He's reacting," Victor said. "Give him more sedative." Crystal prepared another injection, but before she could administer it, James began to move. His arms twitched, his eyes fluttered. The sedation was failing. "Hold him down," Crystal hissed. "He can't wake up yet." Victor pressed down on James's shoulders while Crystal fumbled with the syringe. In her panic, she dropped it. It rolled under the table, and then James opened his eyes. For a moment, he didn't understand what he was seeing. Bright lights, unfamiliar ceiling, pain in his side. His wife's face above him wearing surgical scrubs, holding something metallic. "Crystal, what's happening?" "Shut up," she screamed. "Victor, knock him out." Victor grabbed a cloth and pressed it over James's face. But James was awake now, adrenaline flooding his system. He thrashed against their grip. He screamed. And the hidden Alexa device heard everything. The smart home system had been recording since Crystal and Victor entered the basement. It had captured their conversation about the kidney. It had detected the sounds of surgical tools. And now it detected sounds of extreme distress from a household resident. The AI processed the situation in seconds. At 2:54 a.m., every phone connected to the smart home system began calling 911. Emergency at T432 Oak Street. Resident in medical distress. Possible assault in progress. Immediate response required. Simultaneously, the system called Memorial General Hospital. Dr. James Park requires immediate assistance. Unauthorized medical procedure detected at T-home residence. Every light in the house turned on. Security alarms blared. Exterior floodlights activated. The front and back doors locked automatically, trapping everyone inside. Crystal froze. "What the hell is happening?" Victor looked around wildly. "We need to finish and get out." But the house had become a prison. Every exit was sealed. Alarms were drawing attention from neighbors, and police dispatch had already sent units to the address. James managed to roll off the table. He crashed to the floor, blood streaming from his side. He crawled toward the stairs, screaming for help. Crystal stood paralyzed, still holding the bloody scalpel. Everything she had planned was falling apart in seconds. Police arrived in 7 minutes. Officers found the front door locked but could hear screaming inside. They breached through a window and followed the sounds to the basement. What they discovered looked like a horror movie scene. James was on the floor near the stairs, bleeding heavily from a deep incision in his side. Crystal stood near the operating table, surgical tools scattered around her. Victor was attempting to destroy a laptop computer in the corner. Both Crystal and Victor were arrested immediately. Paramedics rushed James to the hospital. His colleagues worked to repair the damage. The incision was deep but hadn't reached the kidney. Crystal's technique had been slower than a professional surgeon's. That delay, combined with the smart home intervention, had saved James's life. He was in surgery for 4 hours. He would spend 2 weeks in the hospital and months in recovery. But he would survive. Meanwhile, investigators processed the crime scene. They found surgical equipment laid out for organ removal. They found coolers with preservation materials. They found Victor's laptop with dark web marketplace connections still visible on the screen, and they found the recordings. The smart home system had been uploading audio files to cloud storage for months. Every conversation Crystal and Victor had in that basement was documented. Their planning sessions, their discussions about James's value as organ inventory, their casual cruelty toward the man Crystal had promised to love and cherish. Investigators also found Crystal's phone with encrypted messages. Dark web transaction records showed payments she had received for James's blood over the past 6 months. Buyer communications revealed plans for the kidney sale. The evidence was overwhelming. The investigation expanded over the following weeks. Police discovered that Victor had connections to a larger trafficking network. He had been involved in at least 3 other organ harvesting cases, though none as ambitious as what they had planned for James. Crystal's background came into focus: her nursing license revocation, suspicious patient deaths that had never been fully investigated, a pattern of targeting vulnerable people going back years. James cooperated fully with prosecutors. He provided testimony about the marriage, the timeline, and his complete ignorance of Crystal's activities. He underwent psychological evaluation and counseling. The betrayal had shattered something fundamental in him. The blood sales were confirmed through medical testing. James's hemoglobin levels showed a pattern consistent with regular blood loss over several months. His fatigue, which doctors had attributed to stress, was actually caused by his wife systematically draining him. 47 days after the attack, prosecutors filed charges. Crystal faced attempted murder, assault with intent to cause great bodily harm, conspiracy to commit organ trafficking, and multiple counts of assault related to the blood harvesting. The combined charges carried a potential sentence of life in prison. Victor faced similar charges, plus additional counts related to his involvement in other trafficking cases. His laptop had provided evidence, linking him to networks across 3 countries. The trial began 8 months later. Prosecutors presented the smart home recordings as their primary evidence. The jury heard Crystal's own voice discussing her husband's value as spare parts. They heard her casual cruelty. They heard her complete lack of regard for his life or well-being. His kidney will set us up for life. This idiot doesn't even deserve organs this perfect. He's too stupid to realize he's just inventory to me. Each recording was more damaging than the last. James testified for 3 hours. He described meeting Crystal, their courtship, their wedding, the marriage he had believed was real, and the night he woke up on a table in his own basement while his wife cut into his body. "I trusted her completely," he told the jury. "I loved her. I thought she loved me. And she was selling my blood while I slept. She was planning to take my kidney and keep me alive just long enough to harvest more. I wasn't her husband. I was her product." The defense argued that Crystal had been manipulated by Victor, that she was a victim of his influence, that she had never intended to seriously harm James. But the recordings destroyed that argument. Crystal's voice was confident, calculating, and completely in control. She had recruited Victor, not the other way around. She had planned every detail. She had shown no hesitation about cutting into her husband's body. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all counts.
Sentencing came 3 weeks later. Crystal received 45 years to life in prison. She would be eligible for parole at age 74.
Given the nature of her crimes, parole was unlikely. Victor received 52 years for his role in the attack, plus his connections to other trafficking cases. Crystal's statement before sentencing showed no remorse. That stupid smart speaker ruined everything. James was wasting those organs anyway, walking around with a perfect kidney while people who actually mattered die on waiting lists. I was going to help important people, people with money, people with influence. Instead, it all goes to waste because some computer decided to make a phone call. She still didn't understand. She never would. James watched the sentencing from the gallery. He felt no satisfaction, only emptiness. The woman he had loved, the woman he had built a life with, had never seen him as human. He had been inventory, product, spare parts with a heartbeat. Recovery took years. The physical wounds healed within months. James returned to surgery after a year of medical leave. His skills remained intact. His dedication to saving lives was unchanged. But trust was broken in ways that might never fully repair. He sold the house where Crystal had tried to harvest him. He couldn't walk through those rooms without remembering. He moved to a new city, started fresh at a new hospital, tried to rebuild a life that made sense. The smart home company that had manufactured his devices contacted him after the trial. They wanted to use his case as an example of how their technology could save lives. James agreed, hoping it might help others in dangerous situations. His story was featured in news articles and technology publications. The recordings became evidence in discussions about smart home privacy and safety. Some people were disturbed by the idea of devices constantly listening. Others saw the life-saving potential. James saw it simply. A machine had done what his wife had promised to do. It had protected him. It had called for help when he couldn't. It had documented the truth when lies surrounded him. 2 years after the attack, James met someone new. She was a nurse at his new hospital. She knew his history. She had read about the case. She approached him not with pity but with genuine respect for his survival and resilience. They dated slowly. James was honest about his difficulty with trust. She was patient, understanding. She proved herself through consistency, not promises. 3 years after the attack, they married. James chose a small ceremony, close friends only, no elaborate reception. He had learned that love wasn't about grand gestures. It was about daily choices, small kindnesses, genuine care for another person's well-being. His new wife understood that. She had never asked about his wealth, never shown interest in what he owned. She loved him for who he was, and that was enough. Crystal remains in prison today. Her appeals have been denied repeatedly. The evidence against her is overwhelming. The recordings leave no room for doubt. She has never expressed genuine remorse. In letters to supporters, she continues to argue that she was providing a valuable service, that James's organs were wasted on someone who didn't appreciate them, that she was a victim of technology, not a perpetrator of violence. Victor cooperated with authorities after his conviction. His information helped dismantle trafficking networks in 4 countries. He will die in prison, but his testimony saved potential future victims. James continues his work as a transplant surgeon. He understands organ donation better than most. He has dedicated his career to legitimate transplantation, to saving lives through ethical means, to honoring the gift that donors and their families provide. He also speaks occasionally about his experience at medical conferences, to law enforcement groups, to technology companies developing safety features. His message is always the same. The person closest to you might not see you as a person at all. Trust your instincts, pay attention to warning signs, and build safety systems you can rely on when everything else fails. This story reveals something terrifying about human nature. Crystal looked at a kind, successful, loving man and saw only his components, his blood type, his organ compatibility, his market value. She couldn't see his humanity because she had none of her own. James's mistake wasn't trusting someone. Trust is necessary for love. His mistake was ignoring small warning signs, the questions about insurance policies, the comments about his organs, the fatigue that didn't match his lifestyle, but his preparation saved him. The smart home system he installed for general safety became his lifeline. The technology he embraced out of caution became his rescue. Sometimes protection comes from unexpected places. Sometimes the things we build for one purpose serve another. Sometimes survival depends on preparations we didn't know we were making. Crystal believed she was smarter than everyone around her. She believed technology served her purposes. She believed she could manipulate systems and people without consequence. She was wrong about all of it. The quietest device in the room heard everything, recorded everything. And when the moment came, it made the call that saved a life and ended her freedom. If this story of survival and justice moved you, I need your help to continue bringing these incredible tales. Our goal is 500 subscribers, and every single subscription brings us closer to that dream. Please hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell. Your support means absolutely everything to us. If you think Crystal got exactly what she deserved, give this video a thumbs up. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. What would you have done if you discovered your spouse was selling your blood while you slept? How would you handle that level of betrayal? I read every single comment and love hearing your perspectives. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that even in the darkest moments, protection can come from unexpected places. Thank you for watching this story of betrayal, survival, and the machine that refused to let murder happen in silence. Remember to trust your instincts, pay attention to warning signs, and never underestimate the value of being prepared. I'll see you in the next story. Until then, stay safe and stay aware.